Hello and welcome to In Progress with Grace. I'm your host, Grace Davis. And if you're new here, In Progress is really all about giving space and voice to the ups and downs and all arounds of being an entrepreneur as a human being in this world. We are always evolving, we are always changing, we are always growing. And I think it's so valuable to give space to talk about these things. And that's a huge theme that Chanie and I cover in today's episode. I'm so excited to share this interview with you. I think it's really powerful. Even while I was editing it, I was like, oh my gosh, I needed to hear a lot of these reminders. So hopefully it's impactful for you too. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to do a little quick check-in with you guys because there's been a lot of things happening in my life and business. And to honor the nature of the podcast being all about being in progress, I think that it's really important to share these processes with you. So if you follow me on social media or you've listened to previous episodes of the podcast, you may know that recently I've been dealing with a lot of medical challenges. I stepped in a little hole in the grass and I've been on crutches for 2 months with an unknown foot injury. I have been jumping through all of the hoops to try and get seen by specific doctors and specialists and to figure out what's totally wrong. Do I need surgery? It's been a real challenge. I haven't been able to walk or drive in 2 months, and at this point it's going to be another 2 months from the day that I'm recording now to just find out what's wrong with it. I've got to get scans and then I've got to meet with the doctor again, and then we will know the plan of action. So it's been kind of a crazy time for me dealing with all of this along with managing my business. I went from having like 110% energy, like fully in it, to being at about a 40% energy level on a day-to-day basis. So a lot of my business operations have slowed down or been pulled back. My capacity has shrunk significantly because of this injury. And that, I think it's important to bring this up because unexpected things happen when we are in business. It's inevitable, it's life. And while I did not expect for this to happen, there are definitely ways that I was in the process of planning, and there were certain systems I was in the process of setting up for my business to make sure if something like this ever happened, I would be supported. I think it's really interesting that this ended up happening in the midst of setting up those systems. It's definitely given me an opportunity to reflect and see the importance of that. So that's where I'm at in my business right now. And that's also why I am doing this podcast. I really have been craving a platform where I can come and just be honest and talk for longer periods of time to share thoughts and ideas and to give voice to other entrepreneurs in the process as well, to just like have the conversations that I have on, phone calls with my friends who are also entrepreneurs, to really share those conversations because there's so many golden nuggets that come up during those conversations. So I am really excited to be doing this. I am also still figuring out the format of this podcast, so please bear with me while I find my footing. No pun intended, but I am finding my footing on like, what do I like the best? What do you guys resonate with the most? So if you have any feedback on the way the podcast is edited, do you like these check-ins, etc., etc.? I would love to hear your feedback in the comments below, or feel free to send me an email or a direct message on social media. All of those links and contact information is going to be below. So, in other news, I am opening up applications for new people to interview for the podcast. So if you are an entrepreneur and you have been through the ups and downs of starting a business, or if you are brand new in your business and you're just getting started, I would love to hear your story and give you the space to share. You can find the details for how to apply in the show notes below. And yeah, I'm just like really excited to have more conversations about this, about everything entrepreneurship, online business, marketing, and also healing, like the interpersonal experience that we have around all of this. And that's what today's episode is really about. I talk with Chanie, who is a somatic practitioner out of Long Beach, California, about how to acknowledge and be with your emotions and in like a day-to-day life setting. Simple practices that you can implement now to create a more comfortable and safe environment for yourself to feel your feelings, and how that actually very much impacts the success of your business as well. So I think you guys are going to love this episode. Like I mentioned, this has been giving me so many powerful reminders that I needed to hear around just giving myself grace and really prioritizing health and the heart. So if you are a highly sensitive person and you want to learn how to get into your body, this is going to be a really great episode for you. Chanie is amazing. I'm so glad that we connected through the internet and that we can share this episode with you today. So without further ado, I will turn it over to today's episode. Thank you for listening.
It's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. Yeah.
I am so excited to get into today's conversation because I truly, truly, truly believe that it is essential to have a practice or some sort of connection to somatic processing as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a human being in general. Like, we've got to get into our bodies and process that stuck emotion. So I'm so excited to talk to you about your insight, your perspective, and what really inspired you to get into this work. So thank you for being here. What really inspired you to pursue somatic work, and how has that shaped your personal life but also your professional life?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I tried so many different things and I found them to be helpful, but I didn't feel connected to my body. I found myself constantly feeling like I need to run. It was really hard for me to be present, especially once I started having kids. I knew what I should do, what I wanted to do, but I had a really hard time implementing it. I had a really hard time feeling connected. And eventually, after trying many things, I was led to somatic healing. You know, somatic just means body. So there were many different types that I tried before I was led to try this one type of therapy that I do. Is called emotional release therapy, or Amine, some people call it. And after doing it myself for, 6, 7 years, I just fell in love with it. It was like, oh my gosh, finally, this is like meant for me. And with every session that I did, I just felt more and more connected to my body. And I realized, that it wasn't about trying so hard to like figure it out or do the right thing or read the right book. It was more about just keeping it more simple by just breathing into the wisdom that I already had within me that I was so busy running from, and learning to use my breath and get in touch with my heart space and really coming close to my body instead of trying to run away from my body and change it. It was like coming close to my body and accept it, which is the work that I do now, helping people to learn what it took me many years to learn, and to come to understand that there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. We're not broken, and we don't need to fix anything about ourselves other than learn how to love and accept ourselves, which is what we deserve. And that, like, I always thought like, healing is like changing or being something different. But the more that I healed and got in touch with my body, the more I realized like all my feelings, all my experiences, all my struggles, it's just part of being human. And the healing is accepting that that's okay. There's nothing wrong with me, and just having the capacity to add compassion to
Mm,
everything I'm experiencing. And that's what somatic healing really gave me, and why I'm so passionate about helping other people, because it changed my life.
yeah. Wow, that's so powerful. So you practiced for 6 years yourself before you got certified and started helping others, right?
Yes, I never people would always tell me, "Honey, you should be a life coach, you should be a therapist." And I didn't ever think that it would ever happen, because I was in a very codependent space where
Mhm.
I felt like I would never want to help others from a place of like, using them to fill my own cup, or feeding my giving me security that I'm feeling good, that I'm helping others, or you know uh, walking away from my own stuff to focus on their stuff. I didn't want to do that. I didn't feel like it was coming from a healthy place, and it wasn't something that I ever thought would happen. But then once I came to a place of feeling so whole within myself, and feeling loved and enough within myself,
Mm.
it was from a different place that I felt I would be able to really hold space for someone else, for them, not, make it be about like me and my insecurities, which I would never want to do.
Right, right. Absolutely. Yeah, it's so important to have that full cup so that you have the capacity to hold space for others, because otherwise, like, it can get into this territory with that like savior complex of like, I have to
Exactly.
save you to feel good about myself, right? So I think that's
Exactly.
really, really admirable that you got all this feedback of like, hey, you should do this thing. And you're like, okay, well, I need to like fill my cup first. I need to get really solid, really like set up that foundation, because I think a lot of people do just go into this work from that place of I've got to save people and that's my calling, that's what I'm here to do, right? And while that might be true, we can't really save anyone. This work with somatics, it's all about holding space for people to find their own heart. And that's why your podcast is Reclaim Your Heart, right?
So my podcast is Reclaim Your Voice. And then when
Okay.
I did started my podcast way before I even knew that I would ever do this work. It was more sharing my healing journey. And then I started that like 4 or 5 years ago. And then a year ago, I started um, doing this work with others. And I was thinking, what should I call it? And I realized, by reclaiming my voice, I reclaimed my heart. So my practice is called Reclaim Your Heart, and no, my podcast is called Reclaim Your Voice, and my practice is called Reclaim Your Heart.
Right. Your practice is called Reclaim Your Heart, which I just absolutely love, right? Because that's what we're doing. We're just holding space for people to come back home to themselves.
Yes.
What was that pivotal moment like when you went from practicing for yourself, right, to then deciding, okay, it's time to step into that role as a space holder?
That is such a great question. I wasn't even thinking about it. And my somatic practitioner, I was working with her for many years. And she said to me one time after our session, I remember I was still on the table. I had just done a session with her. And she said, I was closing my eyes. I had just breathed into my body and done this work. And she said, Connie, I'm doing a training. Is it something that you'd be interested in? And I started to cry, because never in my life, I'm even gonna might cry now, and that's okay. I embrace all my feelings, my honest feelings, which come out as tears. I I never felt such a like they say like a full body yes. It was like,
Mhm.
of course it was. I didn't have to think about it. Like, this is what I'm meant to do. And before that, I was a makeup artist. I had done all these other things, but slowly as I started healing, those things started I started feeling less interested in those things, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I always felt like there's something that I'm going to do, but I didn't know what. A few other things came up, but it wasn't like I always knew that when it's the right thing, I'm going to know. And it was in that moment when she asked me if I wanted to take the training that 100,000% without a doubt, I knew.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you know, right? It's just
You just
that.
know. You don't have to think about it. It's like, of course.
Yes, exactly. That's something I've been really working with myself, but also with some of my clients recently, like really asking, I know what your mind is telling you, right? I know all the things your mind is running through. What does that deepest place tell you? Don't even throw all of that out the window, all the possibilities, the concern over making the right decision, all of this. What is that deepest place telling you? And go from there.
Yeah, and it's more of a feeling, right? It's more of a feeling than any words, really. It's like you feel it.
Yes, exactly. Like that full body yes, that full body no. And if there's uncertainty, like let it be uncertain. Give it some space, right? To get to that clarity where you get the clear yes or the clear no. We don't have to always have everything figured out all at once.
Even if we have to, we never will.
Yeah, exactly.
So we may as well say we don't have to, right?
Right. For sure. Wow,
Yeah.
that's so powerful that you just had that clear emotional response to, and your body was like, yes, absolutely, fully, don't even have to think about it.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Cool. So let's like back it up a little bit. For someone who is not familiar with somatics, how would you explain the work that you do to someone who has never experienced this before?
Yeah. I would explain that the society we live in and a lot of families that we grew up in, we're not taught how to support our feelings and how healthy it is to feel our feelings. A lot of us are, me and a lot of people I encounter and a lot of messages is to run away from our feelings and like just be happy or just don't feel uncomfortable. And we're taught in so many different ways, from when we're little, oh, it's not a big deal. Oh, don't cry. Oh, here's the lollipop, or focus on something else, or don't give energy to that, or get over it. All these messages that are teaching us to run away from our bodies and run away from our feelings. But what happens is that our feelings get stuck inside of us and they scream louder and louder to be heard, whether it's through physical illness, through anxiety, through codependency, addiction, whatever it is. And so what I do is I help people to, let go of their minds that are busy keeping us away from our body and breathe into our bodies to reclaim, to go back to those places where we have all those ages still crying, still never got a chance to cry, never got a chance to express their anger, never got a chance to feel the overwhelm of humanity, whatever it was. And go back to those places and allow them to feel what they need to feel so that they don't need to scream so loud in whatever way that it's screaming, because feeling is not really a choice. It's a part of our human nature and a part of what we're born with, and it's not something that we can run from and feel at peace or be present. We can learn to run, but it's going to affect us in other ways. So a lot of people are looking for presence, they're looking for peace, they're looking for connection in their relationship with themselves and with others. If we have all these piled up mountains filling up all this space, where's there space for love? Where's there space for connection? Where's there space for peace? It's like
Right.
crushed. Like I know for me, I never had a second where I felt peace, where I even knew what peace was. I was constantly bombarded with all these anxious parts of me that were begging to be heard. So basically, I help people get in touch with their bodies, feel their feelings, and learn how to support their feelings so that they no longer need to run, because we need to run when we don't know how to support those feelings. And no one taught us, right? So I'm here to go back to those places, refeel those feelings, and show you what it looks like to actually add love and compassion and support to those feelings so that your body can become a safe space to be with, so that you can be present. And then once you're able to get in touch with and be present within yourself, that's when we have the capacity to connect and give to others, right? Because I know for me, I was only able to give what I first gave to myself. So many people are, wanting closer relationships with, their spouse or their friends or their kids. And it's like, you can try to do all these things, but if we don't first connect it with the, if we don't first do that within ourselves and love ourselves and find space within ourselves, almost impossible to be able to give what we don't have to someone else.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And that's why I really love bringing this lens of somatic work into entrepreneurship and online business, because if you're trying to run a business and have employees, or even if you're doing it on your own and you're serving clients and you're doing all of this stuff, right? As an entrepreneur, we really have to wear a lot of different hats, especially at the start. If you don't have the tools to work with your emotions, to be with your emotions, it just swallows you. Especially because as entrepreneurs, we're really taking a leap of faith and trusting in ourselves. And like, there's so much fear that can come up around trusting in your ideas, going all in and like not necessarily having potentially stable income at the start, and really having to full on trust, and all these emotions come up through that process. So it's so important to not just like mentally try to understand why we're feeling the way that we're feeling, but to actually learn how to fully feel the feelings, right? And like you
Yes.
said, we don't get taught this
No, we get
growing
taught
up.
the opposite.
Yeah, like suppress, 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 right? And then
Exactly.
at some point, like that pressure builds up to where you just kind of explode. And I hear about this all the time. People who have these life-changing experiences where they just cannot hold on anymore. And so the goal is to basically prevent that explosion from happening in a way that is catastrophic to life, and giving yourself the space to have these explosions in a safe space.
Yeah, or to shut down. Some people, might not look like an explosion, but if they're, like you
Right.
said, if they're trying to build a business and they have all these feelings of fear and they don't know how to support the feelings, they can easily give up because it's too hard. But what if you know how to support all those feelings? Then you don't need to shut down and you can keep going because you know how to support those feelings to be able to not shut down or explode, like you said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I heard you mention parts of yourself. There's parts of yourself that were feeling this and feeling that. Are you familiar with internal family systems?
So I didn't like fully read about it, but I follow, on my social media, and I've heard I have a friend who's an internal family system therapist, and it's a lot of it sounds very similar to what the work that I do. Just the
Yeah.
only difference is how we get there. I do kind of the different parts within the body. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of similarities I've heard between the two.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. I absolutely love working with internal family systems and kind of using a somatic lens with it as well. Like s- speaking to the parts, talking to the parts, and moving the body through what's coming up, or letting those releases come, speaking out loud to the parts. It's super
Yes,
helpful.
very similar. That's
It's so
exactly what I
helpful.
do.
Yeah, yeah, because we have all these parts, right? And like if you've gone through traumatic experiences growing up, those parts kind of get stuck in us, as like the little kid who, never felt like she was enough, or like, the teenager who felt totally humiliated in school, like getting in front of and like speaking to people. Now you're afraid of speaking, right? Like those parts all live within us. And when we can give them space to exist and acknowledge them, man, it frees up so much.
Totally. And also, the reason why it's so good to know that is because before I knew that there were different parts, I was so confusing because I was so excited about this thing and I had so much energy, but then suddenly I didn't. And knowing that there's different parts and they're all true at once makes it so much more manageable and makes so much more sense. Like, yeah, there's a part of me that's excited. There's a part of me that's scared. That 3-year-old is afraid, but and the teenager is angry, but the adult in me, like, we've got this. And so I can hold all those parts with me instead of feel like it's all of who I am. Or or sometimes what could happen is there could be like a war zone between, like, you know one part and the other part, instead of just like, supporting all of them, giving my heart space and my love to all of them, and they can all be here at the same time. It takes away so much of the anxiety and the overwhelm when there's nothing wrong with many different parts, many different emotions all at once. It doesn't have to be like one thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Would you say that working with somatics is sort of like reparenting yourself?
Definitely.
Yeah.
The type of somatic, like I said, somatic is body. There's literally so many different types, but the
Yes.
part that I do, the type of somatic that I do is reparenting because, yeah, I mean, our feelings are here based on a lot of our feelings are based on, our whole life. So they could be many different ages. So, yeah, we go back to a feeling that I have now can be here because of, you know, all those different ages. So I reparenting myself from all those ages does affect how I'm feeling about something today. So definitely.
How would you say this work would support people who are in like high pressure environments, like CEOs, people who are running like massive businesses? Why is this work important for people
Yeah.
in those positions?
That's a really good question. Obviously there's a lot of answers to every question, but the first thing
Yes.
that comes to mind is that when we're so busy and when we have so much on our plate, it can be really easy to just go, go, go and be distracted from our body.
Yeah.
And it's so important to take the time to be still and to let go of doing and, you know, the busy and all of that, and to create space just to be with your breath and to tap into your body and to pause and to really listen. Because when you have a high demand job, I'm sure it can be easy to just never stop and never listen. So when you create space to do that and um, really get into your body, when you're busy doing everything else, you're bringing that presence with you. So
Yeah.
it's less stressful. And like you said before, you're avoiding burnout or shutdown or, one day, I mean, there's a limit to how, either you're going to get sick or I don't know, something's got to go. Like either,
Yeah.
your relationships get affected. If we don't take care of our body, then even if in the moment it looks like everything's running smooth and everything's great, you're going to crash eventually. So by taking the time and the space to breathe and to have that quiet space and to really take care of your emotions, it's like preventative and allowing you to continue doing what you're doing in a way that you're not going to just go from like everything to nothing. You can continuously have balance.
And that balance is what we're all striving for, right? So having these tools to learn how to get back into the body and feel those feelings can help bring that balance too, like you're saying. So I'm curious to hear if there are any simple practices that you would like to share, to help get people into the body who are maybe in these stressful work environments, or they're just sensitive people, or they're just people who want to be more connected to themselves. What are some simple exercises that someone can do anywhere to self-regulate? Um, and how would you integrate those practices into like normal day-to-day life?
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody has, different capacity, but
Yeah.
if someone's able to, like, I would say like 3 times a day, like maybe first thing in the morning, mid afternoon, and like, before they come home or whatever, just take a pause, even just for a few minutes. If it's possible to go outside and just close your eyes and feel the sun on your face and just like, feel the air, look at the trees. I mean, nature is such a powerful way to help us regulate just the energy of nature, the sun. Like I said, just, starting my day, I have little kids, and when I'm rushing out to take them to school, if I just stop for a moment, close my eyes and just feel the sun on my face, and I imagine the sun being like unconditional love that's like, I'm here with you. I've got you. It just that moment of tuning in fills me up with like loving energy. So I think, trying to get outside just for taking breaks to go outside and breathe um, is a big one. I think also just taking time to check in and be like, how am I feeling? Because, like you said, when you're working and you're so busy in your mind, we can forget about how we're feeling, but really our feelings are still there speaking. And it can come out by us overreacting or getting really agitated. So even if not 3 times a day, even once a day, starting with once a day, in the middle of the day or whatever, maybe by lunchtime when you're anyways taking a break, just stopping. And if you can, for me, journaling really helps. Some people don't like to journal. So I would say if you can journal, it's a great tool to just literally ask yourself, like, hey, how are you feeling? And then to write how you're feeling. And then a tool that really helps me and supports me is responding with support to the feeling. So let's say, I don't know, how are you feeling? I'm feeling really stressed today. Or, yeah, like, I get that. It's really stressful. Like, you know, I'm here for you. Just something small like that. Just tapping into what it is I'm feeling and then adding some love can be can help the stress throughout the day feel less alone and more manageable and more regulated because we took a moment to like pay attention to it. It's not about how do we get rid of the feeling or how do we not feel stressed. It's about how do we get close to it and how do we offer it support and show it that it doesn't have to feel this way alone. So even literally 2 minutes tapping in. And if you don't have a pen and paper and you're just by yourself, like even just, you know, asking yourself quietly, how are you feeling? Sometimes, if I'm triggered or whatever, just be like, oh, this is really internally, this is really triggering, and be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I totally get why. We'll talk about it later if I don't have time. But even just acknowledging how I'm feeling really, the feeling doesn't have to scream so loud because it was heard. It's like a little kid, if they're talking to you and you're ignoring them, they just get louder and louder and louder until you stop and you look at them and you say, I hear you. So our feelings are all there screaming, and sometimes just being acknowledged and being like, I hear you, I see you, you make sense, can really help to regulate. And those things don't have to take a lot of time. No matter how busy we are, we can stop for a moment and just
Right.
like notice, acknowledge the feeling, and like let it know that we care.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something I see comes up a lot. People feel or think that being with their emotions, being with what's coming up for them has to be this whole process. And it can be, right?
Yeah,
It can be, right? Like, and that's when you work with a practitioner and you go into these sessions where you have longer periods of time to really go deeper into the feelings. But when we're busy throughout our day-to-day life, sometimes it's as little as just 5 minutes. And just I have sticky notes that I just have around random pieces of paper. And yeah, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'll literally just be like, overwhelmed on the
exactly.
paper. Like, okay, I'm
Exactly.
acknowledging because I'm writing it out. This is how I'm feeling. Okay, great. Now I can move on.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
Sometimes it can just be that simple. Um,
Yeah, and you're right. Sometimes we don't have time. My daughter was homesick the other day, and I was last week for 2 weeks, and I was sick too. And it was so much for me. And just acknowledging, wow, this is a lot. Like I suddenly was able to have more patience with her because before I acknowledge that, I feel like that internal judgmental voice that, a lot of us are brought up with, like, don't feel that way. Don't be overwhelmed, or it's not a big deal. Without us realizing it, it's like there's like a bully inside of us, like telling us it isn't such a big deal or we shouldn't be so overwhelmed. And so that is what causes a lot of the stress. So by, you know, um, allowing the one feeling, let's say of overwhelm, and acknowledging it, even though we might still be overwhelmed, it's much better than not acknowledging it, not letting it be okay, and adding shame and judgment and anxiety and avoidance on top of it. By the time you're forced to pay attention to it, like forget it. You have like 15 additional hard feelings to work through.
right. Right. Like if we were just with our sadness or our anger or our fear for 5 minutes, it honestly saves so much time. So that's a
Exactly.
productivity hack. You really like this is a productivity hack. If you want to be more productive, acknowledge your fears, your
Stick
emotions.
with the one issue instead of adding 10 more.
Right, right. You're so right because anytime I'm feeling overwhelmed or frustrated and I go back into that pattern of like, but you shouldn't be feeling frustrated or you shouldn't be feeling overwhelmed. Like it's not that much. Like you got it. Right. And I'm trying to pep talk myself. Like it doesn't work. It doesn't work. The pep talks in that way don't work until you've acknowledged the emotion first.
Yeah,
Like,
the emotion is almost like, stop gaslighting me. I'm going to stand up for
yes,
myself and I'm going to be even more overwhelmed until you listen to me.
yes, exactly. It's crazy how we can really gaslight ourselves and how we've been trained to gaslight ourselves.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, so wild. So we're in the process, of unwinding that. I think as a collective society, as modalities like somatic healing, right, are becoming more and more popular and more accessible. How can we make these tools more accessible for people? I think we're doing it now, right?
Yeah.
But how do you do that through your work?
How do I make it more accessible to people?
Yeah.
I love to write, so I write every day. I don't like there's no have to in my life, but I'm inspired to write all the time. So I share that way. I think it's becoming more accessible just because I think the more people that become aware that healing is definitely much more popular now than it was. So, just the it creates more honesty. When I go to the store and someone says, "How are you?" I mean, I don't always do this, but sometimes when I decide to be honest and I'm like, "I'm actually having a really hard day," or "I'm feeling overwhelmed," like it gives it makes it more accessible for the other person to be more honest about their feelings and to have less shame. So I think just being yourself and being honest. And I think the more of us that are honest and show up authentically, whether it's, through this podcast or writing or just when you're out in the world and you're just honest about your feelings, it gives other people permission. And I think just the more I realize, like, the more it's not about like trying to make it more accessible. It's automatically when I work on myself, my energy like has an impact on the people around me, which like makes healing, I guess, have more of an impact on the world. Just the way that I interact with people, the way that my like energy really does have a big, especially when you're a highly sensitive person. I didn't used to understand that, but our energy has such an impact. So I think just having a safe energy um, helps. I mean, there's so many ways to help. But I think just any way that people that are healing can share and be honest about it in whatever way platform that they use is helpful.
Yeah, I love that perspective. Like, even just going to the grocery store and being honest when you're having a hard day is so impactful. I
Yeah.
love doing that and seeing the look on the cashier's face when I'm like having a hard day and they're like, "How are you?" And I'm like, "Honestly, not great," And they're like, "Whoa," they're so used to just getting the good, good, how are you, whatever small talk. And
Exactly.
sometimes I do that too because I'm like, I am good,
And then they're like,
But
oh, it's just because of the weather, right? I'm like, no, it's just because life is hard sometimes.
yeah, life is hard sometimes, and we need to talk about that more as a society. Like, just honestly, yeah, like I'm a human being. I have depth of emotion, and things are hard. And I think this is important also, not just in the grocery stores, but even in the online space, right? Like, we're both entrepreneurs in the online space, showing up, creating content, right? A lot of the people listening to this podcast are as well. And it can be so easy to get caught in the trap of, I want to be perceived as I have it all together. I want to be perceived as someone who knows what they're doing, someone who has money, someone who has beauty, has luxury, has, all these things. And it's so much easier to deeply connect with people in the online space with that honesty. Like, nobody is perfect. Nobody has it all
Yeah.
figured out. Nobody fully knows what they're doing, right? Like, we're all figuring
Not
it
at
out
all.
as we go. We're all learning as we go. We're all evolving and changing as human beings every single day. And it's something that I still struggle with, even as someone who teaches others how to step into that truth and honesty in the online space. Like, I still struggle with that myself, right? How
Yeah.
would I have gotten to the place where I can teach this and share the things that I've learned if I haven't struggled with it? And
Right.
so I really strive to do that in my content. Is that something that has shown up for you as you've been exploring social media and how you want to share about your journey and your work?
Yeah, so years ago, like before my somatic healing, I definitely felt really scared and embarrassed and uncomfortable to share things like I'm sad or I'm overwhelmed or I feel shut down. Definitely. I feel like doing this work for so many years, I actually don't look at saying I don't have it all together or I'm feeling sad or I'm overwhelmed as something that isn't amazing. Like, I actually really think that it's just, like, just like people are happy, people are sad. That's literally how I look at it. Somebody asked me the other day, like, do you ever cry? And I was like, well, first of all, I'm want to cry right now, but I have social skills. So I'm not like sitting here crying to you. But actually, the reason why people ask me, I think, like, do you ever cry is because I have an honest smile. And the reason why I have an honest smile, I think, is because I cry all the time. I have no problem with crying. I have no problem with sadness. I don't look at it as not having it together. I think that somebody who says I'm only happy, that scares me so much more than someone who says, like, I'm overwhelmed and have no clue what to do. Like, to me, that's like, who does know what to do? Who does have it all together? To me, that's so much more normal and human. And um, it's just like saying the sky is blue to me, to be honest. It's like,
Yeah.
of course, like, you're human. This world is complicated, you know? I think the more healing I have, the more I realize that I don't have it all together and I never will. And that I'm not supposed to. I'm just a person. Like, there's this whole universe that is much bigger than me. And I think that thinking that there's some day that I'm going to have it all together or there's a goal that I reach that I'm just only happy or I'm only at peace has long gone. It's like, no, the more that I heal and the more that I sit with my body, the more I realize how every single emotion and every single thing I feel, whether I have no clue what well, there's always a part of me that doesn't have, there's always all of the parts of me at once and they all make sense. Just sometimes one speaks louder than the other. One day my happy speaks louder. One day my sad speak louder, but it's not like, I used to be like, oh, I'm happy. My sad no longer exists. Yay, I'm past it. Now I'm like, there's still sad in the world. And today I'm more in touch with my happy. But that's not because I'm more healed. It's just because that's the feeling I'm more in tune with right now. But it doesn't mean that I'm not having it together if I'm aware and honest about the fact that I'm sad. Someone asked me once, when are you gonna like stop having to like process your feelings and just move on and just be happy? I'm like, unless you take like heavy drugs to knock me out, never.
Yeah.
Because because I'm always gonna be aware that there's everything in the world, sad and happy. And when sad happens, I'm sad. When happy happens, I think it's my relationship to my feelings that change, not my feelings.
Right.
So because my relationship, like for example, if let's say it was uncomfortable to share that you were happy and you had it all together, right? You might feel uncomfortable because that's what you were taught to believe, right?
Right.
So I taught myself to believe and in my body and for all this work that I've done that every single feeling is equally acceptable and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it.
Hmm.
And I try to not surround myself with people who have that attitude of, oh my gosh, there's something wrong here because yeah, energy does affect me. So I don't even think I realize. I mean, maybe that's why I don't have like that many followers. Or sometimes when I notice when I post things, sometimes people leave. But honestly, I don't mind because I'm like, good. People that appreciate how honest I am and how real I am and how I'm so open about sadness and fear and anxiety. And like, those are the people that I want here, anyways. So I don't know. Like, I don't feel uncomfortable or embarrassed to be very honest that I don't have it all together. I look at it as a strength because it's the truth. And I think that the truth is a beautiful thing. And it's something that I had so much anxiety about my whole life that people were trying to shut me down from the truth and I was shut down from the truth. So it's liberating to be open about these things and not only be open about it, but know that there's absolutely nothing weak or wrong. It's actually, I don't even want to say brave because it's sad that it's considered brave to just be real. Like, it shouldn't be. It is considered brave, but it shouldn't be considered brave. It should just be human. Like,
Yeah.
is it brave for someone to smile when they're happy? It's just human, right? So just like when you cry or you're overwhelmed or you don't have it together, I mean, you're just being honest.
Yeah, absolutely. That radical honesty is the way to go.
Yeah,
That's the way to go. I've been practicing that so much more recently because, uh, like even the emotions, some days there's more happy, some days there's more sad. The level of um mastery around these skills also ebbs and flows, right? Some days
definitely.
I'm really great at acknowledging my sad and processing quickly. Some days I'm not, and I want to push it away and I want
For
to reverse
sure.
that pattern, right? So like we're always in this dance with ourselves and with life and with our inner worlds, just navigating, that ebb and flow. And it's so important to give ourselves so much grace. Society has told us what success and what wealth looks like. This is also why my business is called Wealth is Grace, because I believe that true wealth, true abundance comes from that place of being able to give ourselves grace, being able to
Yeah.
give ourselves compassion around all the feelings, around the truth of what we desire and the path of creating that, of manifesting that. What is your personal definition of success and wealth?
My definition of success and wealth is knowing that exactly what I feel and what I'm experiencing and where I'm at right now is more than enough. Being is enough. Existing is enough. Breathing is enough. You know, it's hard to breathe. It's hard to be alive in this world. It's hard to exist. It's enough. It's enough. And when I know that that's enough, maybe I'll be able to do more. But when I feel like that's not enough, I feel shut down.
When we try to get so caught up in the external markers of success and we forget that literally just existing can be enough.
Yeah.
Right, it can get overwhelming. And like as an entrepreneur, there's always a million, thousand things that we need to do, should do, want to do, even. And some days we wake up feeling motivated, excited, ready to go, and we show up and we do it and we're feeling the good vibes and it feels great. And then some days we're sad. Some days we're frustrated, angry, not feeling it. And the show still has to go on, right? Like we can't always rely on our motivation to take action, but it's when we start to attach our success or our worth to completing the tasks on our to-do list where we start to really just get off the rocker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's so important, especially on those days, to remember like I am inherently enough.
Yes. And also something else came to mind. Sometimes I feel like doing should be if I had a successful day, and I feel down if I didn't do a lot. But then when I think about it, it's like, okay, what's most important to me? To me personally, connection with myself and others is the most important thing to me. So, if when I held space for somebody, for myself, or for someone else, if I smiled at somebody, if I, you know, gave my child a hug, like that is amazing. That's productive. Like these things that are the most important thing, because like are not even seen as being productive, when really to me that is more important than doing. I mean, of course we have no choice, we have to do what we have to do. I used to feel like taking care of my feelings and sitting with my heart and just being wasn't productive, and I've taught myself, I didn't believe it in the beginning, but I've taught it to myself, and I still do when I forget all the time, and remind myself that what could be more productive than taking care of your heart? Like, why is anything else more important than your well-being, your feelings, your love? Like love is the most important thing. When you're on your deathbed, are you going to be like, "Oh, I should have done that to-do list," or are you going to think, "I should have given an extra hug. I should have loved myself a little more. Like I deserve that." Like that is so much more important. And when I put that first, then I appreciate the other things more, because I'm coming to the other things with love, as opposed to like this like lack, and this like, I don't know, like with my heart open and my heart connected, which it makes everything I do feel more meaningful, as opposed to just like empty, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. for sure.
Yeah.
And I believe that there's a muscle there that has to get worked, that trust muscle, like learning how to trust that when you take care of your heart and take care of yourself, that the abundance is there for you. Because I
Totally.
hear a part of me, and I know that some people listening to this might even have this part too. That's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, but what about money? What about my home, right? Like if I can't pay my rent, then I'm not stable and I'm not taken care of and my heart's not there, right? And sometimes what my heart wants doesn't match that uh need to make money or create stability in life or show up for my business in a particular way, right?
True.
And so there's always this dance of like, yes, taking care of the heart and nurturing oneself. And we can get addicted to processing. And this is something I've gone through in my life where what made myself homeless because I was so addicted to only doing whatever my heart wanted all the time and always processing my emotions and getting caught in and kind of addicted to that experience.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Especially when you don't have that for so long and then you first discover it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I've got to catch up. It's like
Yeah.
I've got to fully trust and like only listen to my heart and not ever the logic. And I think the reality is like we start in our heart, and I think it's really important to befriend the ego, to befriend the mind, to befriend the logic, and connect with it as a friend, not as like the guiding force for everything all the time, always. Really truly listening to the heart is also collaborating.
Yeah, I can't, my kids need to be picked up from school. I can't just sit there holding my heart. Like, I need to go get them.
Right.
But if I spend, some time breathing, when I get them, I'm going to be more successful in my interactions with them. So,
Yes.
both, like, we have to do, but if we can bring heart into what we do, then, they can both feel better.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, like yeah, because if we exile one or the other, it's just like you fall like so far on the scales, right? When we're really just always kind of like, okay, the heart needs a little more attention. Okay, giving that a little more attention. Okay, and now I've got to get into my logic and focus on like, my responsibilities, right? And then okay,
Yeah,
and like learning how the more that you do it, the more that you do it, the easier it becomes to hold your heart while you're in that space of picking up your kids. Like waiting in the lane.
exactly.
And it's like, okay, I don't have to go into this whole like this whole experience or this whole practice to drop into the heart and to hold myself.
I mean, for people who, like, for me, I needed to, because I was so disconnected. And I think with anything, with boundaries or anything, when somebody didn't know how to do something for so long, there could be a space where it's so much, but as you integrate and as you get more comfortable with it, and as then then it doesn't have to take up your whole life. But I just think it depends where you're at, in your
Yeah,
process. Yeah.
definitely, definitely. Yeah, like at first when you and even like if you go through a traumatic experience in life and you've done all this work and you've worked the muscle and you've got to the place where it's integrated and then you go through a trauma, it's like that's when you go to a practitioner and you get held because sometimes it's too much to just face on our own. Like sometimes
Right.
we really need that space to be held and that guidance so that we can fully be in that experience, not thinking, how do I hold space for myself?
Yeah, as opposed to if you healed from that trauma and you're like still, like you probably can go to less therapy, and like it exactly. There's no black and white for any person, any situation. It's like, what is the most honoring for myself and that makes the most sense in this moment. Sometimes it's going to be more like this, sometimes it's going to be more like that, and it's about balance. And there's no everything or nothing, you know.
Right, right. Like we're allowed to change, we're allowed to grow, we're
Exactly.
allowed to ebb and flow in all of these ways.
Yeah, definitely.
What's like the main piece of advice that you would offer to someone who is navigating challenges, regulating their emotions, uh, speaking to really anyone, but entrepreneurs, sensitive people, people in these like high stress work environments, what would you suggest?
I would suggest like getting as much support as you can and knowing that, you know, there's no shame in asking for help and getting support because life is really hard to do all on your own. And whatever that means for you, whatever can support you and help make it more manageable, like you're worth it. And thinking, how can I, instead of like, how do I plow through, even though this is so hard, it's like, what can I do to support this so that, you know, is there something I can do? And sometimes there isn't. Sometimes there's nothing you could do different, but you can add compassion, you can add support, you can add breath, right? You can add just taking a moment. So, just like kind of, I think adding support to whatever it is in whatever way, I think can really make a difference.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love that because we we don't have to do it alone. So often I think, especially in the business world too, like there's a lot of pride around like I built this on my own or like I did this myself. And well, yes, it's amazing that what we can build and what we can grow and what we can do on our own, we don't have to do it on our own. And like it's
Exactly.
also very prideful to build something with people who have your back and have that, to have that support system as well. um so I love that. I love that. Yeah, don't hesitate to reach out for help and support. And
Yeah.
speaking of that, you're offering some free 30-minute discovery sessions where people can kind of connect with you personally, share a little bit about what they're going through and see, what would be the best fit for receiving support from you, right?
Yes, definitely.
Awesome. So if you guys want to learn more about Chanie and her work, you can check out the links in the show notes below. You can book that discovery call below. I highly recommend it. Like we're saying, you don't have to do this alone. You've got support around you everywhere. And don't be afraid to reach out for that support because, ooh, we can go so much farther when we work together.
Definitely.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so, so much for coming on the podcast today. I have absolutely loved this conversation. And yeah, thanks so much for sharing your heart and your wisdom. And for everyone listening, thank you for being here and listening. And keep an eye out for new episodes. We are going to be posting weekly episodes coming up here soon. And I'm so excited for all the magic that we have to share with you, from really this like deep interpersonal work to relational work to online business, marketing, the whole spectrum. Honestly, we're I'm really encouraging myself and celebrating myself around not holding back here. So we're gonna get
Celebrating
into
with
it
you.
all. Yeah, radical honesty, right?
Yes, love it.
For sure. All right, see you guys next time.
Don't forget to rate, like, and share with all your friends and subscribe so